Everyone ready?
Wow.
Ready? Okay. Good morning and welcome to the Trinity County Board of Supervisors meeting for this day, April 21st, 2026. We will begin our meeting with a Pledge of Allegiance led by Supervisor Lutweiler.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We will now start our meeting with items in A category of presentations. And we will start with a presentation from our district attorney to adopt a proclamation recognizing April 19th, 2020, April 19th through the 25th as National Crime Victims Week. I will read the proclamation into the record. A proclamation of the Board of Supervisors of the County of Trinity recognizing April 19th through the 25th, 2026 as National Crime Victims' Rights Week. Whereas National Crime Victims' Rights Week is observed annually to honor victims of crime, promote victims' rights, and recognize the ongoing need for advocacy, support, and justice, and whereas crime victims and their families often face significant emotional, physical, and financial hardships and require compassionate, coordinated, and trauma-informed services to support healing and recovery. And whereas Trinity County is committed to ensuring that victims are treated with dignity, respect, and fairness throughout the criminal justice process, and that their voices are heard and valued. And whereas the 2026 theme, Listen, Act, Advocate, Protect Victims, and Serve Communities, emphasizes the importance of actively listening to victims, taking meaningful actions to address their needs, and advocating for policies and services that strengthen communities. And whereas local organizations, law enforcement, prosecutors, victims advocates, and community partners in Trinity County work collaboratively to provide essential services, raise awareness, and improve access to justice for all victims of crime. And whereas increasing public awareness of victims' rights and available resources helps build safer, more resilient communities and encourages individuals to support victims and stand against crime. Whereas victims of crime have constitutionally protected rights in the state of California, including the right to be informed, to be heard, and to receive restitution as set forth as Marcy's Law. And whereas strengthening partnerships between government, agencies, community-based organizations, and residents enhances the county's ability to respond effectively to crime, support victims, and promote long-term community safety and well-being. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that Trinity County Board of Supervisors hereby proclaims April 19th through the 25th of 2026 as National Crime Victims' Rights Week in Trinity County. And be it further proclaimed that the board encourages all residents to recognize the importance of supporting crime victims, to honor those impacted by crime, and to commit to listening, acting, and advocating to protect victims and serve our communities. This will be duly passed and adopted on the 21st day of April, 2026 by the Board of Supervisors of the County of Trinity. Do we have any comments or would you like to make a motion?
I move to approve as presented.
I will second.
Is there any discussion or comments anyone would like to make on this?
I look forward to, I assume we're going to have someone speak to us today or not? Yeah, I would love to.
Thank you.
I would love to hear. And then
I know how this works. First, I have to mic check
I
for the people
people on Zoom. Okay. So first of all, thank you to the board, for the chair, CAO Tuthill, for everyone for being here and recognizing National Crime Victims' Rights Week. My name is Joni. I'm the Victim Witness Coordinator within the DA's office, and thank you for my team back there for being here and supporting this day and this cause. Oftentimes, people are unfamiliar with victims' rights until they need an advocate or until they find themselves or their loved ones within the criminal justice system for one reason or another. So I'm going to start with just a little bit of history on victims' rights within our nation and then within California. Do I have 3 minutes or?
You do.
Okay. Oh, okay. So in December 1982, President Ronald Reagan's task force on victims of crime released its final report, which concluded that the neglect of crime victims in America was a national disgrace. The report challenged the reader to confront the human reality of victimization. Among its recommendations, the task force called for federal funding to support crime victim compensation programs and local victim assistance programs, which is where I work, within the Trinity County DA's office. In 1984, Congress created the VOCA, Victims of Crime Act. It was signed into law in 1988. It's funded by criminal fines, penalties, bond forfeitures, and not tax dollars. In California, we have Marcy's Law, which is written into the California Constitution, Article 1, 28, Section B. So within the federal government, we have 10 rights. Within California, we have 17. Yay, California. These rights involve safety considerations, notification throughout the criminal justice process and beyond. That includes when someone is confined, having information about where they are, which prison they're in, making sure that victims have rights even when the incarcerated person is in prison. So they want to know about parole, about release, and then where they're paroled to upon release. They have the right to be heard throughout different stages of the criminal justice system, and the right to restitution, which is the right to be made whole within their lifetime for any economic damages and sometimes psychological harm. But victims' rights, it only exists on paper and as a hypothetical without policies, processes, and tangible resources that meet the immediate and long-term needs of victims. So what does that look like real time? If a victim were to invoke their rights and if their right were to be enforced, that looks like criminal protective orders, notices about court proceedings, court escorts, conferring with prosecution, safety planning, emergency housing and referrals to other agencies that provide social services, food, water, clothing, gas vouchers, helping victims with creating their victim impact statement and presenting that in front of in the court upon sentencing. It looks like helping victims with their restitution claims and then making sure that those claims are actually go forward to where they can start collecting payment. So then I'm going to wrap this up. The theme is listen, act, advocate, and protect victims and serve communities. That's the theme for this year for the National Crime Victims' Rights Week. What that means to me, my interpretation, is that victims don't necessarily need advice. They need a safe place to be heard. They need time to express their concerns and their fears. They need resources, tangible resources that we all need, like food, water, shelter, transportation. They basically want to just get back to their normal life. And this isn't always a violent crime. Sometimes it's a property crime and they want their car back, or, and if something was vandalized, they might want that window paid for, whatever it is. Basically, just get back to their normal life and the way things were before the victimization. When it comes to ACT, we don't always have the resources. It's a call to the community. You don't always have the resources if you're not, if you don't have the financial resources, but what you could do is just make sure that you treat people with dignity and respect. Lastly, I'm gonna give a quote.
You have as much time as you like, honey. So
Oh, I do.
don't feel
Oh.
rushed. Yeah,
Okay,
take
sorry.
your time.
Okay. So lastly, I'm just going to say this, and it comes back to if the last thing you can do, the only thing you can do is show a victim kindness and respect. It's a quote from Maya Angelou. I've learned that people will forget what you said, they'll forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel.
Very true, very true. Well, thank you. Does anyone have any questions or comments they would like to make on this matter?
I just would like to say that in that list of things that you read that can happen to people, I think it's one of those things where you don't realize it until you're the person that's in it. Then there you are, and what do you do? An awareness that there are resources to help, and an individual like yourself that's compassionate, that knows what the law is and what can be provided and walks it out with them is just a really important thing. And I thank you for that.
Thank you.
Supervisor Leutwiler?
And I just wanted to ask, so oftentimes we're looking at budgets and things and we just realize we don't have nearly enough people and resources to do all the work that needs to be done. I'm wondering, how do you feel about the availability of your team's resources to support the victims in Trinity County? We're okay,
So this might be strange because I don't think any other department would say this, but we're okay.
okay. I thought when we'd had a conversation before, it seemed like that was the case. I mean, there's always a load and sometimes you're probably super busy and sometimes not, but generally, this is an area where we have a pretty good alignment of resources to need.
That's on a yearly basis, so the VOCA funds, they do run out, but the state picked up gap funding, so that's where we're okay. And then also, we're supposed to have a second advocate, so that vacancy can get pushed into direct services for victims, and that has happened.
Okay, great. Well, thank you and everyone that works with you for what you do. I know can probably be pretty emotional at times.
I'll just say, I don't, probably this is both unfortunate and fortunate. I've had the opportunity to be supported with victim services and it is absolutely, it is, it's so helpful to know that someone else is going to help you navigate and understand, what you need to do for restitution or when those folks are stepping into trial and how things turned out. And it does give you a sense of peace to know that you're part of you're being recognized, that these things matter to you as someone who, had the crimes committed against them. So it is a valuable and important work that you guys do, and I'm super grateful for that. And if you don't mind, we'll take a picture with your team.
Sure.
We need to take a vote first.
Supervisor Gogan?
Aye.
Supervisor Leutwiler?
Aye.
Supervisor Cox?
Aye.
Supervisor Brownfield?
Aye.
Chairman Carpenter-Hurst?
Aye.
Thank you.
Where do you want to sit?
Whiskey.
Thank you very much. Thanks. I see you guys in the hallway. Please.
I wish to thank the board, the chairman, and the CAO for doing this. My office deals with victims on a daily. And your recognition today is important because we live in a state where it seems to me the state government has lost its way and does not respect or deal very well with victims. And I thank you.
Thank you. We will now move to item A2. Trinity County Transportation Commission, receive a presentation from LSC Transportation Consultants Incorporated, Project Manager Arcadia Davis, regarding the Public Draft Short Range Transit Development Plan and Coordinated Transportation Plan for Trinity County. Welcome.
Good morning. I'll just give a quick introduction. Sarah Saad, Senior Transportation Planner for the county's Transportation Commission and Department of Transportation. So over the past several months, we've been working with LSC Transportation Consultants to update the Trinity County Short Range Transit Development Plan and Coordinated Transportation Plan. These are key planning documents that help guide the future of Trinity Transit, the only public transit operator in the county, as well as help strengthen coordination between public, private, and nonprofit transportation providers. So this morning, Acadia Davis of LSC, who's been serving as the project manager, will be presenting the short-range transit development plan, and Justine Marmesh, senior transportation planner for LSC, will be presenting the coordinated transportation plan portion of the presentation. So we look forward to feedback from the commission and from the public. And I will go ahead and hand it over to Acadia, who is on Zoom, to begin the presentation. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Sarah. Can everybody hear me okay?
No,
No,
can you,
Let's see. Is it a volume issue? I can try to talk
it's
louder.
on our end. We're getting it there.
it's a
Okay.
volume.
Great. I will talk loudly. If you stop being able to hear me, just interrupt us. So I will go ahead and share my screen here. Okay, hopefully you can all see that.
Yes, ma'am.
So like Sarah said, my name is Acadia Davis. I'm here with my colleague Justine Marmesh, and we had the opportunity over the past year or so to conduct the update to the short-range transit development plan and the coordinated transportation plan. And these planning processes happened concurrently. And so I'll present on the SRTDP, as I'll refer to it, and then Justine will take the reins and present on the CTP. And then as a reminder, this is the public draft. So this is a great opportunity for comments, questions, and feedback as we move forward. So an SRTDP, it is a business plan to guide transit development and investment for the next 5 years. And there are some distinct steps to this process. We start with looking at existing conditions, what's going on right now. So this is population demographics, this is transit performance, so how is Trinity Transit performing? And this is where we conduct public outreach in a variety of forms. We then come up with a list of potential service changes, or what we're calling alternatives, that we can look at and we evaluate to change the system, to improve cost efficiency, to better meet mobility needs within the region. Then we look at what we've evaluated and we choose the ones that make sense, that are feasible, that are cost efficient, and those go into a service plan, a capital plan, and a financial plan. And all of these are combined into our SRTDP. And here we are presenting on the public draft, and then we'll incorporate revisions and edits, and we should be wrapped up by June. So when we're talking about existing conditions, one of the first things we look at is population. And just to touch on population a little bit, on the top here, you can see that population in Trinity County has grown ever so slightly over the past 20 years and is projected to continue to grow, which is not the case for many rural California counties. On the bottom here, population change is split into age categories. And an important thing to note here is when we look at the senior population, so those over the age of 65, this population in Trinity County is projected to grow significantly. And this matters because these individuals are more likely than the general public to rely on specialized transportation services, such as dial-a-ride or non-emergency medical transportation services. So there are 5 populations within a community that have been flagged as being more likely to rely on transit than the general population. And I mentioned seniors previously, that is one of them. And the other ones are youth, persons with a disability, persons living below the poverty level, and zero vehicle households. And you can see here that some of these on the upper left-hand corner are bolded. And for these populations, in Trinity County, a higher percentage of the total population is made up of seniors, people living with a disability, persons living below the poverty level than state of California as a whole. And then on the right-hand side, our figure, when we look at the concentration of all of these populations combined, we can identify communities with higher transit need. And that's what you see in the figure here, and then identified on the lower left here. And some of these communities are already served by Trinity Transit and transportation services, and some are not.
So another part of our existing conditions analysis is to look at performance of Trinity Transit. And we calculate several metrics, but I just want to touch on one here being trend in overall ridership. So in this, you can see 7 years shown here in fiscal years. And you can see that the COVID pandemic had a really sharp negative impact on ridership in 2021. And this is not unique to Trinity Transit by any stretch of the imagination. Since then, however, you can see a gradual positive increase in ridership, which is good. This is a positive thing to see. Interestingly, however, the proportion of ridership by route, shown by the different colors, has changed somewhat since pre-COVID. Reading now carries more passengers than it did pre-COVID, and Willow Creek comes pretty close. Hayfork and Lewiston, though, have not seen the same ridership recovery at all. And these are things we take into account when we're moving forward in the SRTD process of choosing and evaluating service alternatives. So in addition to Trinity Transit, there are several transportation services that serve the county and provide regional connections, and these are touched on in both plans and just highlighted here.
I'm going to speak with you all regarding our public and stakeholder outreach efforts. Is everyone hearing me all right in the room?
Yes.
Yeah.
Great. So at LSC, we really pride ourselves in our abilities to meet people where they are, especially in the rural communities that we serve, which is predominantly our clientele, especially in Northern California. We do this through our onboard passenger surveys, our online community surveying, our workshops, as well as our one-on-one stakeholder interviews. So as you can see here, we conducted our onboard passenger surveys. We had them live on all Trinity Transit routes for approximately 3 weeks, perhaps even 4. This included flyers on all of the buses, hard copies, as well as QR codes for folks to scan and take on their own time. These questions ranged from where are you living, where are you going to, how old are you, how often do you ride, and what sorts of improvements would you like to see on Trinity Transit routes? We also had our online community survey, and the goal of this survey is to reach people who are obviously not currently riding, though people who are passengers were also encouraged to participate in the community survey. The survey was publicized in the Trinity Journal, as well as posted on social media. We had a stakeholder group of about 50 contacts that we would send reminders to post flyers, send them out to their clients, and just circulate the community survey throughout the region. We had 3 workshops, one in Hayfork, Lewiston, and Weaverville. We chose these areas because they were the most populated areas of the region, though we sent multiple reminders for folks living outside of these areas to attend as well. And then we had more one-on-one stakeholder interviews with representatives from the Human Response Network, the Golden Age Senior Center, Shasta College, and the Health and Human Services Agency. Going back to our onboard passenger survey, these were the results when asked whether or not they would like to see particular improvements along each route. Pardon me. As shown here, Saturday service was the most popular requested service, followed by adding additional round trips between Willow Creek and Weaverville. And lastly, Sunday services. Some of the other category responses ranged from, having later service, earlier service, increased service to South County also came up as well. Just to give you a general idea of what was most popularly requested amongst the passengers riding Trinity Transit today. Workshop feedback. We had more attendance from stakeholder groups at our different workshops. We had increased daytime and evening service to Reading as the most frequently requested. I think that every stakeholder that attended, their clients would benefit from increased services to and from Reading for social services, medical services, etc. My biggest takeaway from these workshops is that there's still a bit of a knowledge gap between different social service providers in the region on what is available to their clients beyond public transit, Trinity Transit currently. So definitely working with local nonprofits, for-profit organizations, as well as social services to get a better understanding amongst everyone would be something to continue improving upon. And then the implementation of a county-operated NEMT service, a non-medical emergency transportation service, came up quite frequently. A lot of folks who weighed in both surveys as well as our workshops mentioned that a lot of these folks have a hard time even getting to a Trinity Transit route, especially in the communities of Heimpum, Douglas City, and Post Mountain. So there are NEMT services currently in the region, but most of them are in coordination with partnership, which is in the insurance provider. It's very particular to Medi-Cal. So those who are not covered by this insurance don't have access to NEMT services at this time. So having something that's more county operated would be beneficial to these folks living outside of the current Trinity Transit service areas who are not covered by Medi-Cal. Back to you, Dia.
Thanks, Justine. So once we look at existing conditions and we hear from the community, our next step in the planning process is to come up with a list of service changes or alternatives to evaluate. And when we go about choosing what to evaluate, we're really trying to answer the question, how can we improve mobility for residents and increase efficiency of the transit system? So in order to understand and compare the impacts that each service change will have on the system, we conduct a performance analysis that quantitatively presents the impacts of each change on ridership, service levels, and cost. So here, I don't expect you to be able to read all this and absorb it all immediately, but on the left-hand side, we have all the service changes or alternatives that we evaluated and the impact on ridership of each of these. And as you can see here, each alternative is going to have some impact on ridership, some positive, and some where service is being reduced will have a negative impact on ridership. So we also calculate a couple performance metrics for each service alternative, which allows us to see if this change is going to increase performance or decrease it when compared to existing conditions. Because a change that results in huge ridership may look really good on paper, but does not necessarily increase cost efficiency or productivity of the system. And just to give you an idea of how we go through this analysis. So here we have passenger trips per hour, which is commonly referred to as productivity, and is a standard metric to evaluate transit services. And you can see that the impact on this metric varies by service change. This one shows the change in marginal operating cost per passenger trip due to each alternative. And again, we're looking for the alternatives that improve on existing performance. So just to give you a couple examples, take, for example, Saturday service to Reading. This increase in service costs less per hour than existing Reading service, so it increases performance. Reducing Lewiston service to Wednesdays only has a higher cost per passenger trip than existing, so this change or this decrease in service also increases system-wide performance. So just to give you a brief idea of our process. So we go through our analysis of all these potential service changes and we come up with a recommended service plan. And here you can see visually what our recommended service plan is. I'm just going to walk through these. So we're recommending adding a midday round trip to the Willow Creek line. This has already been implemented by Trinity Transit. On the Hayfork line, we're changing the midday round trip to a mid-morning round trip, and then also providing weekday, so 5-day-a-week service. So you're now getting service on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Both of these have already been implemented as well. Reducing service to Wednesdays only on the Lewiston line. This has also been implemented. On the Reading line, we're adding an evening round trip and adjusting the timing of the afternoon westbound run. And then also implementing an on-demand drop-off and scheduled pickup at Rapid Transit Center, and then eliminating all Turtle Bay service. So both of those are on the Reading line. Two others, Saturday service on both the Willow Creek and Reading lines. So you would be able to travel cross-county on Saturdays in both directions. And then, as Justine mentioned, the NEMT service, we're recommending piloting a 1-day-a-week NEMT service throughout the county. So part of the process is to look at what impacts cumulatively our recommended service plan has on the system. And most of these service changes are recommended to be implemented in the first year of the planning period, so 26-27. So cumulatively, we're projecting that ridership is going to increase by 20%, fare revenue by 28%, and it'll come at a marginal operating cost of around $173,000 in that first year. While it is going to increase marginal operating costs, this service plan is also projected to increase cost efficiency. So something to keep in mind. And then, so here we have our financial plan for operating, and I don't expect you to immediately take in all these numbers, but I wanted to show this because I wanted to show that with the expected revenue coming in here on the upper portion of this table, Trinity Transit is projected to have a robust operating surplus throughout the planning period. And this is relevant because the goal of the SRTDP is to present a fiscally constrained 5-year plan, meaning Trinity Transit has enough money to do what they're planning to do. And so this is great to see. And this does include the operating costs associated with our recommended service plan. And this is also really useful because it means that Trinity Transit will have money in reserve if unexpected things arise, say unexpected capital expenditures, things like that. And here, I do want to acknowledge that there's a lot of uncertainty with transit funding right now. I'm sure you are all aware, especially at the federal level. And we do not have a crystal ball. I wish we did, but we don't. But we have done our best to take a conservative and realistic approach about how much funding is going to be coming in the next 5 years. So moving on to our 5-year capital plan, there are a few elements here. 3 span all 5 years, and that's vehicle replacement. We're looking at 3 vehicles over the course of the planning period, facility rehab and maintenance, and bus stop maintenance. There are 2 single-year expenditures. One is open loop payment system in 26-27, and this is the capital portion of that, not the ongoing annual reoccurring costs. Those are included in operating costs. And then farther out, electric bus charging infrastructure in 2030-2031 to align with Trinity County's zero-emission bus feasibility study that was completed during a separate planning effort. Okay, so before I pass the mic to Justine to talk about the coordinated transportation plan, I wanted to pause for any clarifying questions on what we have presented so far. And just the caveat here is we are going to have time for discussion and lengthier questions and comments at the end. But if there are any quick clarifying questions, we can take those now.
Do we have any questions currently with the board?
I have a bunch, but I'll wait till later.
Okay, all right, continue. Thank you.
Okay, great.
All right, thank you, Dia. All right, so the coordinated transportation plan. This is another type of transportation plan, but I call this more of our social coordinating transportation plan of the two. It begins very similarly to the SRTDP in the sense that we are looking at population trends and changes, current provider performance, different demographic information of that nature. And then we're moving more into what is the current transportation landscape beyond public transportation services in the region. So we're looking at your nonprofit providers, your senior centers, your social services, as well as other types of programs being provided in the region. And then we use all this information, our public and stakeholder outreach, input and feedback. We review the previous CTP that's been completed, and we try to revise these goals and strategies to update them and bring them into current context. A CTP allows Trinity County to be eligible for particular types of FTA funding. It is required to go after programs such as 5311. It is helpful to try to more officially identify current transit needs and gaps throughout the entire county, and then looking for more creative solutions that aren't so service alternative based. While our CTP does complement the SRTDP recommendations, it's looking a little bit beyond that in reaching other aspects of transportation planning. So with that, I'm going to go through each of the goals and their supported strategies in brevity. And then if anyone has additional questions at the end, you want to dig a little deeper into where these different goals or strategies are coming from, some of which are modernized versions of previous recommended goals and strategies, while others are newer and they came from observations during this current planning process. So goal 1, we wanted to just have a very solid foundation that Trinity Transit should maintain and continue to enhance their services to meet the trip needs of seniors, disabled, and low-income populations, which I forgot to mention on the previous one. The CTP is very much focused on these 3 primary populations within a county. Supportive strategies, I'm sorry, I'm coming off of a cold here. Supportive strategies under this goal include NEMT services, a restoration of Saturday services, and continuing to strengthen regional connections between HTA and RABA. Goal 2 and its strategies focus on rebuilding Trinity Transit ridership through increasing awareness of services amongst county stakeholders and the general public. So this is very much in response to what I was discussing earlier in workshop and survey feedback, being a lack of overall awareness throughout the county of what is available outside of the major populated areas that Trinity Transit currently serves. Strategies that support this, continuing to improve existing marketing materials, establishing real-time bus information, direct mailers to particularly transit-sensitive communities to get the information out to people's homes, and the creation of a regional rider guide that outlines all the available modes of transportation and types of services in the region. A good example of this, and take a little note, Shasta County has a really great rider guide that has, beyond just the RABA services, also other nonprofit, for-profit providers in the region. So developing something that's a little beyond just Trinity Transit scope would be really helpful to continue to educate the public and stakeholders in Trinity County. Goal 3 focuses on deepening Trinity Transit's existing collaborations while building potential new ones to better address unmet mobility needs across the county. Strategies emphasize regularly evaluating current partnerships to ensure resources are being used effectively. A good example of a current partnership is with HRN and the transportation reimbursement services that they're currently providing for those who are unable to take Trinity Transit to and from their medical and social service appointments. Pursuing additional coordinated service opportunities with new partners and leveraging these relationships to improve how transportation information is being shared to their various clients. Lastly, we've got goals 4 and 5. Goal 4 highlights the importance of continuing to coordinate with emergency planning entities in the region to make sure that everyone is clearly supported in the case of an emergency evacuation or an event that needs any kind of transportation support. And goal 5 continues to promote and support multimodal activities through just keeping in mind the connections between existing pedestrian and bicycle facilities with Trinity Transit. So ensuring that bus stops have some sort of standing pad, sidewalk connectivity, bicycle networks, etc., making sure that connects to transportation services.
Okay, with that, we'll stop talking. I'll pass it back to Sarah. We'd love to open it up for any questions or feedback that you have for us or discussion on either of these plans.
Well, thank you very much for that presentation. We'll now move to questions or comments from the board. I believe Supervisor Leutwiler had some.
I do. And actually, I think this group has already received the document that I shared in writing over the weekend, or I guess on Monday. First of all, though, I want to thank you because it's great to be able to recognize what I consider to be best practices. So one best practice is this was a very detailed set of documentation that was in the backup material, and you gave it to us with time to review. And so it's very helpful. You know, when somebody throws a lot at us in this meeting and we haven't seen it before, it really doesn't give us much of a chance to digest. And so I appreciate that opportunity. And then the second is I sit through so many presentations where people read the slides to me, and thank you for not doing that. You highlighted some key points and you helped us identify the things that were most valuable. So I just want to call those out and thank you for that. Questions. So I just had a few of them here that I wanted to cover from what I sent over. One of the things was I noted in the document myself, and then I admitted to Trent when I shared information, I was seeing so many things, I invited Claude AI to help me summarize and document them. And so some of what I sent over reflected that. But I noted that there's performance standards that says, we're trying to get to 10%, match of basically the funding that's being paid versus the funding that it's costing us I think the state has a goal of trying to get that up to 14%, but we're at the 5% and trying to kind of codify that. So my understanding from talking briefly to Sarah this morning is those higher numbers were valid but pre-COVID, and post-pandemic for really pretty much any rural county, and maybe broader than that, it's not. But I just want to be clear that it seemed like we had stated goals that we should be trying to meet, but we clearly weren't.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but the first, you're talking about fare box recovery ratio, that 10%. Right. And then just comparing these performance standards that we're outlining in this SRTP to the ones that were previously presented.
Right. I mean, I think that again, if I'm understanding the data right, and please correct me, there are goals that say that there should be this kind of match of a certain level or coverage of the cost of a certain level, but our plan doesn't bring us anywhere close to that.
I see what you're saying. So the fare box recovery ratio, we could talk for half an hour on this specific topic, but I'll try to touch on some bullet points here. So prior to COVID, the law was that rural transit agencies like Trinity Transit had to meet a 10% fare box recovery ratio. And this is the ratio of operating costs that are covered by fare revenue. And there are a few different things that prior to COVID qualified as fare revenue. During COVID, everybody saw their fare revenue drop significantly. Operating costs definitely didn't go down. And for everybody I've looked at, they went up. So that ratio dropped. The state needed to come up with a solution so that people weren't being penalized for something that was really out of their hands. So there were a couple things that came into practice. So there were a couple laws that came into effect. One, first, they said that transit agencies that didn't meet the 10% fare box recovery ratio weren't going to be penalized. Great. Then they came in 2021 and said that federal funding can now be classified as qualifying funds for the calculation of the fare box ratio. And so what you'll see in the SRTP, and that's still the case, there is no sunsetting on that regulation. So while the requirement to meet that 10% is still in effect, how the transit agency can meet that, the flexibility has been expanded greatly. So those two tables that you see, or those two figures that you see in the SRTDP, one shows it without federal funding. So like the straight standard fare revenue to operating costs, what you would have seen pre-COVID. And then the latter one with those really high numbers in the 30% is what is legally allowable that the state cares about in terms of giving Trinity Transit funding.
Yeah, and I think that the main thing there that was kind of a shock to me, because again, I think, like you said, a lot of people/organizations don't know about what the services are and the costs and everything else, but your document spelled a lot of it out. And I had no idea that we were regular every day running routes that cost us, say, $75 to run that route per passenger, and we were collecting $3 or $4 or $5. And again, that's where the reason for this is for these underserved community, parts of the community, and making sure they do have transportation for essential stuff. I just never had done that math in my head that, wow, you think of, if I could pay 5% of the Uber fee that they put in front of me, I would love that. So it's an expensive service that we provide. And it was never that clear to me how expensive. And that kind of led to one of the things you highlighted we have because of some funding. I think it's SB 125 funding that's going to run out in the next couple of years, at least as it stands. And the carryover that we have in our balance, we have enough money to get through this, but we are running at a loss every year. The only reason that we can cover this is because we have a carry forward balance and that additional funding that is ending in 2 years. So for the last 3 years, we're only able to keep delivering those services because we have a carryover balance. And when that carryover balance runs out, we couldn't provide these same level of services. Is that fair?
I think I would like to push back just on a couple or clarify a couple things here. So the SB 125 funding, although it's only allocated in 2 chunks, that money can be held indefinitely. So it's not like a use it or lose it situation.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just something to keep in mind. So because Trinity Transit does right now have an operating surplus, they're able to hold on to that and be fiscally constrained and frugal, and then hold on to that money for the duration of the 5-year planning period. And financial planning, there's so much uncertainty that goes into it that I'm hesitant to state anything really beyond that 5-year period. And even out to 5 years, there's going to be a lot that may change. And something like this, a document like this, it should be a living document. So I would encourage Sarah and the transit agency and the DOT to really work with this as things change, to make sure that these numbers still make sense.
Okay, thank you. I got to talk to Sarah about this one, but part of my district is Lewiston. And so when I saw a service reduction there, and the seeming contradiction between a highest need community and yet cutting services by around 1/3 or something like that. But as she was explaining to me that I think the numbers were 70 riders in an entire calendar year, only on the Wednesdays that we were saying that we would continue the service. And when we had a community meeting to get feedback from this highest need community, nobody, not one person other than a county employee showed up. So yeah, I think it's again, one of those things where we're doing a lot of work to try to make sure we're supporting the community, but if the community really wants to weigh in, there were plenty of opportunities here, and we need to know that there are, we have to make decisions, and we'll either do it with or without the input that's provided. And in this case, there was a lot of without. I do want to highlight, though, I know I've mentioned to CAO Tuttle before, to me, this is another good example of us potentially benefiting from leaning in more strategically and proactively with our public information officer, because I'm not familiar. I don't recall ever seeing anything in our newsletters or in our Trinity County social media posts about this. I know there was Trinity Transit posts. I know there were public information on the website. I know there were all these other things that were described, but I feel like we're still in this mode of, well, we're doing the things we should do, but not what we could do. And we have a public information officer that can be help us lift our game up in communication and engagement is what I'm saying. And we still may find that people don't show up, but at least we can give them, Justin and his team, a chance to help us.
I think Lewiston would be an excellent candidate for the mailer, direct mailer information, because even in our survey responses from both the community survey as well as the onboard passenger survey, we had a lot of Lewiston responses who were requesting services that are already existing. So just again, like really beefing up that information distribution in that area would be very helpful for Lewiston in particular.
Okay. And then again, I'll follow up with Sarah on some of the other questions that I still have out there. But the one last one I just wanted to make sure I highlighted is the thing that really struck me as I was reading through there, and I finally asked, Claude to help me make sure I wasn't missing it, was I did not see anything in there about the fuel cost and any sort of sensitivity analysis. And we all know from the news and the price tag at the gas station recently, if this was being put together 2 months ago and you look at the prices today, there would be a significant change. And we can't predict what it's going to be 6 months from now, but I would at least hope that we have some kind of sensitivity analysis that looks at that, because I think when AI tried to evaluate it, it said the impact based on today's fees compared to what they would have been costs, I should say, of fuel to what they would have been a year ago, it's $500,000 over the term of the 5-year plan, which is huge. So I would just encourage us to make sure that that's a part, or if it is a part, you can just make sure and point out to me later.
It's not, just to address it really quickly. We use, because there is so much uncertainty with financial projection and planning. I totally understand that the last few years have seen unprecedented and unexpected increases in specific cost areas. So your fuel, your insurance costs for some agencies have skyrocketed, like contracted services have been kind of thrown out of whack. But we have a standard practice of using 3% for annual inflation that matches with historically average CPI inflation. And so we do that. We don't do it per line item. We just do it across the board. We have a cost model where we use the best and most recent actual expenditures. So in this case, it'd be 24-25 expenses that then we're projecting over the next 5 years. And while our hope and our expectation is that while some line items may exceed that 3%, some may not meet that 3% increase every year. And so it seems like a conservative average. Now, that being said, again, Trinity Transit will have these spreadsheets. So if a year down the line costs skyrocket, they can go in and we would encourage them to reach out to us and say, hey, give us a 5-minute talk through of how this works so that we can adjust our numbers.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're complete.
I am.
Do we have any other questions?
I do.
Okay, Supervisor Cox.
Katie, thank you for your kindness to entertain, some deep dive questions and help us think through this. I do agree with Supervisor Lutweiler that here locally we could utilize our public information officer in even more effective ways than we have to date, and that is a great thing that we could do. Along with that, you had mentioned that, if I understood correctly, you have 50 people on kind of a direct response list that when you have surveys and so forth to send out, these are the folks that would be directly contacted. Did I understand that to be a correct statement?
Yes. So we developed a stakeholder list, essentially, of individuals that we identified through our own research, through talking with Sarah, of people who should be involved in this process.
Okay, so then I have kind of maybe this is directly related, maybe it kind of deviates from that a bit. But my question was going to be, could that list be strengthened? If there are people that we are directly reaching out to when information is requested, could it be more than 50 people, in which case maybe our information could be a little more accurate and give us that deeper dive information. And with that, it kind of relates to my second question, which was that you had said that this is a living document and it should be updated as needed. And I'm just wondering, with the workload that already exists in our DOT, with regard to this document, what is reasonable to think of an update period of frequency?
That's a great question. It depends. I totally understand that the workload of staff is not going to allow an update per se, like text updates, things like that. But I guess what I wanted to stress with that is that this isn't the end all be all document for the next 5 years. Like, these numbers should not be set in stone for the next 5 years. Like, if unprecedented things happen, like if service opportunities come up, those should and probably would be considered, even if they weren't analyzed as part of this document or recommended as part of this document. Like, let's say, 5 years ago, none of us would have predicted that SB 125 was going to be a thing. But here we are. And with that comes additional funding and opportunity to pilot an NEMT program. So I see that as a good example of, who knows, 2 years down the line, the state may say, great, we're launching SB 125 Part 2, and Trinity Transit has an opportunity to think about sort of expansion of service beyond what's outlined in here, or more coordination with other transportation services, things like that. Does that answer your question?
It does. Yeah.
Okay.
You had said though that this document is it's a basis for funding to be received, grants and so forth. So we want it to be accurate in order for best possible outcomes, correct? So I imagine that within our DOT, that kind of thing is tracked to understand, hey, we need to update this because it really isn't reflective and we could do better with what we might go after.
Yes, so it is required every 5 years to update the plans. But like Acadia said, if an amendment needs to happen between those 5 years, granted it's enough impact to that, if it's an impact that we want to see out there, it's something that's requested, then of course. And that goes for most of our plans. Most of them are living documents, although there's a point where it definitely needs to be updated for these grant services.
Mm-hmm.
And just to also elaborate on that stakeholder list, that included, the school districts, senior centers, nonprofit organizations, and much more. But of course, that can always be expanded, and we're always looking for more agencies to coordinate with. And it also included neighboring agencies like RABA and Reading and HTA and Humboldt.
So 50 doesn't mean 50 because
Yeah.
more people are involved in each one of those items.
Exactly.
Okay, that's good to know.
But
And-
Supervisor Cox, I don't
Yeah.
want to lose this one point
Oh,
that you
yeah.
were making though. Sarah, is this that same group though that you said not one of those responded to the survey?
Yes, I believe we didn't really
So I
get,
didn't want you to miss that.
Justine, correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, we didn't really get a big response for the stakeholders. So we don't know how much it was shared to their,
Yeah. If I got a bounce back, I immediately, we have staff calling, we have people emailing, we're Googling, we're trying to find a replacement contact. And yeah, to your point, we have 2 contacts for Southern Trinity Joint School District. We have 2 contacts for Trinity Alps School District, 2 contacts for Far Northern. So we try to get 2 from each, just in case, either one person has left, and I'm not getting a bounce back that they're no longer receiving our outreach. But yeah, we've got medical services, senior centers, any other kinds of social services. But yeah, it can slip through the cracks. We also did send emails to everyone here on this board. So if you didn't receive one during the outreach, then I would be curious to know how maybe we were blocked or it just didn't make it through the filter, or which happens as well. So sometimes we'll ask our clients to send them directly from internal so that we don't get spam blocked.
Okay, so that's interesting and a good point to make because I did receive it and I did not respond to it intentionally because I don't ride the Trinity Transit and I didn't think that responses from me would make sense with your data. You want to hear from people who ride or who need to ride, what's helping you, what's not helping you. Years ago when I had kids in college, absolutely, I would respond. You're not getting able to get them to that first class in the morning, or they need to stay later than what you're picking them up. So, maybe there's a little bit more education that could go into the solicitation of that information that might help understand why feedback isn't happening. But I'll just let that sit. The last question that I do have may need to exist beyond this discussion right here, but when you had mentioned, and it does make really good sense, that if we had a very large emergency, that we may need to utilize our Trinity Transit in order to get folks where they need to be. And I just think of how quickly people needed to get out of Paradise a few years ago. God forbid we should have anything even remotely like that. But I am curious what kind of conversations we have had or need to have, that we are certain we have a coordinated effort in a quick moment if we needed it.
So we do have a plan in place that was about it was before I started, maybe 5-6 years ago. So it is outdated, needs to be updated. However, we do have coordination, and in the past few years, when needed, have used the buses to evacuate individuals. However, we do need to put some planning dollars aside to update it and make sure it's current, and make sure if any changes in, community areas, where's the best place that we would take the bus to pick up individuals, those things change. And so, yes, that we're looking into, Panos and I are looking into updating that with the planning dollars that we're receiving.
Nice, thank you.
That's it. You're complete. Supervisor Brownfield, did you have a question?
Yeah, I do. I hope I'll try to make it as short as I can. So education, I heard that here for mailers maybe to the 5th district. I'm the District 5, so we're really far south. And so I'm looking to maybe the future and, as recent as we can, to educate our population on what you provide, what you may provide in the future, and get some people, some community members involved in commenting and in contacting you and letting you know what we need for transit. There are a lot of elderly people up there. It takes them 4 hours to get to Reading, 4 hours. So, in 2.5 hours to get to Eureka. So it would be a wonderful thing if we could get an extension from Hayfork to Kettenpom and Xenia once a month, maybe try to extend some sort of transportation to Post Mountain and those areas that might need.
Yes, and as Acadia mentioned, that the non-emergency medical transportation once a week to pilot, those we would focus first on helping or assisting passengers in the areas that are not directly served by Trinity Transit right now. So that's mainly going to be South County, District 5. It's going to be District 1 in the North County, because those areas aren't served right now by the transit.
Right.
So although ridership could be very low and we don't want to send a bus there, every day,
Right.
To have not a lot of people, it would be cost efficient to have that, a driver in a ADA van that can go there once a week and prioritize individuals that live in those areas first that have no transit.
Love it. And I also have touched with HRN. They are a very good resource, but they reimburse more than we just need the service, because they
Yes.
don't need to go to, it's a long distance for these people to go to Hayfork, even an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Yeah, we understand that HRN, although they provide a great service
do.
by reimbursing individuals for their trips, not everyone has a driver available. Not everyone has a car that they need gas reimbursement for. So this is what this pilot program would provide.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Supervisor Brownfield, I appreciate you mentioning that about just a once a month type thing to get people.
Mhm.
Because you're really talking about for the price of a gallon of gas,
Right.
you can get all the way down to Reading
Yeah. And we
on
can
this
put
service.
a lot of people in the bus, get them all scheduled so that there's one time
Yeah.
and fill it up. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
So I guess I have a question. You guys cut off service to Turtle Bay, which I think was good. I think any tourist attraction should have their own shuttle to come pick up people. And also, I think perhaps using the on-demand way of doing things. As Rick said, Lewiston gets a few riders per month. And it probably costs a lot to go over there. So I think that if we could have some public outreach and a way for the public to give us a time frame that we can put together that would condense the amount of miles that we put on the buses, vehicles, the drivers, the time, that would probably be a good way to go, especially in some of the outlying areas, as Rick mentioned. I'm not sure there's more other ones than that. And I think moving forward with a looking at budget being, I would expect things to rise tremendously. So I don't think I'd make my budget conservative. You know, you can almost see the writing on the wall that everything involved in transit's going to go up. I know some of it is subsidized, but being conservative in this world right now may not be the way to go budget-wise.
Okay, to answer some of those, one for the timing for Lewiston, that's exactly what we were looking for during this process, to see what the need is out there. So unfortunately, you know, we didn't get too much feedback from that, but we did keep the Wednesday as a lifeline for people who do need to travel from Lewiston to Weaverville. And that includes a morning trip, a midday trip, and a PM trip heading back to Lewiston. So that community still has a lifeline service. And as Rick mentioned earlier, most of the passengers were traveling on Wednesday because it was the only day that had that midday. We weren't getting people on Monday, Friday coming in the morning in Lewiston, staying all day, and then going back. And then as far as the conservative approach, so the 3%, as Acadia was saying, is standard in transportation planning. We did that in our ZEB plan as well. It was a 3% inflation. But of course, it's a living document. Like Acadia said, we can always adjust those costs as needed, and it could be adjusted if need be before the final plan as well. So we'll have that discussion.
One final question. I know a lot of the ridership from my district, Hay Fork and Douglas City, has to come to CVS, you know, once a month, if not more, for prescriptions. And I do know at one point that the transit took prescriptions over to Hay Fork. I don't know if that's totally legal, doable, not at all.
We don't do that. No.
Is it illegal?
I'm not 100% if it's illegal or not, but I don't believe that CVS is going to give the driver someone else's medicine to take there. You have to show your ID to get the medicine. But we do deliver other deliveries all the time. We take a lot of, that's mainly our delivery route from Weaverville to Hay Fork. So we do take a lot of stuff, but not prescriptions.
Is there any way you could look into that and find out?
Yes,
You know, maybe
I will look
lockbox,
into that.
you know, something like that, drop it off somewhere, you know, safe. The driver doesn't get to see the prescriptions, but I get a lot of input from people from Hay Fork and most of the elderly that they need to, you know, get over to CVS, you know, once a month, maybe twice a month. They have a $5 copay, but it costs them $30 to go back and forth. And some people need to take their medicine daily. And I know there's a mail service, but you know, you can't rely on that all the time. And if you need to stay alive by taking something every day, I would hope we could come up with something a little more reliable.
Yes, of course. We'll look into it and see what the legality of it is.
I appreciate
and
it.
of course, if we're able to do it, we will do it. Whatever would help the community.
That'd be great. Thank you very much.
Are we complete? Everyone has had a moment. Thank you. I'll just make a quick statement that I know on the route that is the 299 route, that bus has got a couple kids to school when they missed the the high school bus, and I know that I see people standing and waiting pretty regularly, and so it's good that that's an option for folks. I appreciate the efforts. So we will now close that item on the agenda and open up our public comment. This time is for information from the public on matters not appearing on this agenda or within the consent calendar. All comments are limited to 3 minutes and must pertain to matters within the jurisdiction of this board. When addressing the board, please state your name for the record and address the board as a whole through the chair. No action or discussion will be conducted on matters not listed on the agenda. However, the chair may refer the subject matter to the appropriate department for follow-up or schedule the matter on a subsequent board agenda. Do we have any public comment in the room at this time?
All right. Good morning, Board of Supervisor. My name is Ka Moa, and I'm here on behalf of my family, Zae Hyung and Sia Hyung, who are the applicant for grading permit DP 25-10. I'm here regarding this permit, which was originally submitted on March 18, 2025. On April 16, 2025, the county redeemed the application incomplete. In response, we retained Trinity Valley Consultant Engineer on May 1st of 2025 to ensure full compliance with all county requirements. By September of 2025, we secured a construction general permit from the State Water Board to meet all erosions and water quality requirements with the expectation that upon approval, we could begin construction during the winter months. In January of 2026, we were required to hire an additional engineer for a retaining wall design, which significantly increased both cost and time. Since then, this project has gone through multiple rounds of revision and resubmission. Each time we have addressed every comment in full and in good faith. However, instead of moving forward towards approval, the process continues to introduce new and evolving requirements. In addition, our engineer has met directly with the Department of Transportation in an effort to get a clear direction of how to move forward with the project. Despite these efforts, the meeting has not resulted in a clear resolution, and the project continues to cycle through revision without closure. Right now, we are being asked to get more professional help. This includes a soil engineer and a licensed land survey, which could effectively require bringing on the third and fourth engineer for this project. This permit has now been in review for a year. At some point, a permitting process must provide a clear standard for the approval and a reasonable opportunity to meet that standard. When the requirement continues to shift and expand, the timeline extends indefinitely, and it creates open-end process with no clear point. Trinity County's own code established expectation for timely review. However, in practice, this project has remained in continuous review without resolution. I also want to emphasize that this grading permit is the final piece required to obtain a cultivation license that was already publicly noticed last year of 2025. Every other requirement has been completed. Because this grading permit has not been approved, the entire project remains stalled. At this point, the issue is not compliance. We have complied in every step, hired licensed professionals, secured state permit, and responded to every request. The issue is the lack of predictable consistency and timely process. When a project that is otherwise met all regulatory requirements.
Excuse me, your
Yes.
time has concluded.
Okay.
Thank you for your information.
Okay. Can I just finish with one statement?
We are not allowed to go beyond
Okay.
3 minutes. I'm
All right,
sorry.
thank you for your time.
Do we have any further public comment in the room?
Good morning. My name is Ben Lingeman. I'm a lifelong resident of Junction City. I recognize a couple of you. I've talked to you a few times personally. I'm just going to read a short pre-written statement. I have an encroachment permit that's been in the process for 9 years. It's been difficult and been dropped a few times due to finances. It's a very expensive project. It shouldn't really be, but it is. The encroachment permitting process, from my perspective, is intended to facilitate safe ingress and egress for private vehicles and emergency responders, to ensure that the driveway is integrated in a cohesive, intelligent, and safe manner with the state or county road, and finally, to meet state and county code. I feel I've endeavored to meet all three aspects of the encroachment permitting process in good faith. I don't feel like TDOT has returned the good faith approach, instead taking a more adversarial and punitive approach. Even worse, I don't feel singled out. This seems to be the standard. I'd be curious to know what percentage of encroachments that arrive on the desk of Andy Pence ever leave. The key word I want to focus on is facilitate. The intent should be to encourage and facilitate common sense development in Trinity County. Over his tenure, how much has Andy Pence cost Trinity County in lost revenue by slow walking development and taking an obstructionist stance until projects become prohibitively expensive or are left incomplete and abandoned? I don't need to remind you how much we need every bit of taxed revenue. This dynamic needs to shift. The encroachment process needs to be facilitated in good faith to help constituents develop their properties. Thank you.
Further comment in the room?
Good morning. Morning, Madam Chair, members of the board, staff. My name is Richard Horde. I work with Trinity Valley Consulting Engineers. I'm here to assist Kamoa and Ben Lindeman, who are clients of ours, and struggling to approve on the approval on their projects. I submitted a letter a couple of weeks ago. I thank you, Mr. Trent Truehill, for responding to that and attempting to bring some resolution to the situation on Kamoa's property and her permitting that she's requesting. However, the real issue is much deeper and has gone unchecked for a number of years. It is the way Trinity County Department of Transportation, specifically County Engineer Andy Pence, has consistently hindered the development of multiple projects in this county. The Board of Supervisors has a responsibility of facilitating development and economic growth for the community, but the Department of Transportation is the bottleneck and a gag point of many projects that aimed for just that: bring growth, development, subdivision, housing. Kamoa's project is just an example. Multiple plan reviews, strenuous conditions, delayed response, months in waiting, added conditions at every turn with no end in sight. Another stalled project, as Ben Lindeman just presented, 9 years and counting, abandoned on multiple turns. Over 2 months ago, the project was resubmitted, having addressed all old comments, stamped by both a civil engineer and a geotechnical engineer, signed off by CAL FIRE during a driveway inspection, yet to have DOT simply deny and ask for a complete revisitation of the project. A third and final example is a project from Chris Yordanoff in Palm, a subdivision 8 years and counting. During my 4 years at a tenure as a planning commissioner here in the county, we granted an extension twice to this project. The specific subdivision, this one specifically, has hired 3 separate engineering firms, 2 of whom have quit because they was too demoralizing to continue this process. I bring up these 3 projects to make clear that these are not isolated incidents. This is something that's been years in the making. As an engineer, we are inherently solution-driven. At Trinity Valley Consulting Engineers, we have dealt with numerous federal, state, local agencies across Northern California, but none has been as cumbersome and discouraging as submitting something here in Trinity County. There is a reason no major developments or subdivisions are taking place in this county, and this is why. Something needs to change. What can be done? Either replace Andy Pence in his role reviewing projects for the county, hire an outside engineering firm as an independent consultant to review projects, or provide greater oversight to this review process that's been taking place. but something needs to be changed. Lastly, I am not here to attack anyone's character, persona, or engineering company that is comprised all by local talented. We are committed to the growth and well-being of this county as much as anyone here. It's for this reason that despite risk and professional pushback, we deem it's important to bring these concerns up for your attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have any further public comment in the room?
Good morning, Chair, Supervisors. Good to see you all. It's been a minute. Lisa Wright from Lewiston. I'm going to bring forth something that, I try to always be solution-oriented as well. You might not agree with my solutions, but this is actually a shall. It's called the Permit Streamlining Act. It's Government Code Section 65920, which establishes required timelines for processing discretionary development applications. The example we have today are discretionary development applications. Those extend to conditional use permits, director's use permits, CCLs, as well as LDRD potentially, anything where there's a development component that has discretion or any kind of CEQA review as well. Once the applications are submitted, the agency has 30 days to do a completeness review. That is a completeness review, which means everything they find deficient in the application needs to be addressed within 30 days. At that time, if they do not respond, then it's deemed complete. If they do, then the applicant has an opportunity to resubmit to answer their questions, and then the 30-day clock ticks again for them finishing their completeness review, and then the approval process has a 60 to 180-day review timeline, depending on the level of environmental review that's required. The 180 days would be if a full EIR is needed. The Department of Fish and Wildlife executes this to a T. They follow it, right? 30-day completeness, deemed complete, or if incomplete, you respond, they get one shot. A recipient agency gets one shot at a completeness review. They can ask questions on your resubmission, but they cannot address or add additional requirements following that initial review. What we're experiencing here is not only what's been presented for grading and encroachment, it crosses really all development permits. And it's extremely concerning. We have CUPs that have been in the queue since 2021, for example. So it's clearly not being, adhered to. And, further in my work, I speak regularly with property owners and potential investors. And when they ask me, how long is this going to take? I have to be honest. This could be a year plus for you to get through the permitting requirements because we haven't incorporated adherence to the Permit Streamlining Act into our development application review process. This isn't a criticism of staff. It's about structure and alignment with state law. So what I'm respectfully requesting is the board direct staff to provide clear written explanation of how the county is implementing Permit Streamlining Act across all discretionary permit applications and identify any gaps between their current practice and statutory requirements. So when you're looking at the budget this year and you're looking at stagnation and decreases, ask yourself, could we have done more to promote development and bring in more tax revenue, provide more jobs? Yes. If we're following the Permit Streamlining Act, this would be a much simpler process. Thank you.
Do we have any further public comment in the room? Seeing none, do we have any online?
Dana?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Chair and Board. Dana Hauser from Hayfork. I'm here with my with my dog barking in the background, with my Trinity County Chamber of Commerce hat on. I want to bring it to the attention. Pickle, sorry. I want to bring it to the attention of the board about the temporary food facility event organizers permit and fees that the Environmental Health Department has started implementing. I became aware of this last year when the chamber started organizing their Summer in the Park event, and I wanted to bring it to the attention of the board and the departments to hopefully have it reviewed. I'm not sure where the fees the fee schedule originated from or what ordinance it came from. I understand that each food preparer should have a license with the county, but oftentimes there's very little money made at our small pop-up events, and the fee of $116 that's with an option of being waived once per year for a nonprofit is great, but is cumbersome and prohibitive to an event. And the I'd also recommend the the temporary food permit fees be looked at, because for one fee, it's one event fee. Let me see here. Sorry, my notes. Oh, there's so many tabs open. One event fee is $178, and oftentimes very little money is made at any event. And then multiple events is $356. I would also suggest, if at all possible, for food facility renewal fees. I understand they're based on an annual basis, and I get the ease of all renewals happening in January. That's that's great, but I would suggest prorates being possible, because not all businesses start in January. And if you submit an application and get your food facility approved in December or November, it's the full year, and then it's due again in January. And my criticism is not that all renewals start in January, but that I would encourage the ability for prorated fees. I think I covered all my bases. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Further public comment online?
Tina?
Hello.
Hello?
Okay, sorry, it's my first time. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, please.
Wonderful. Okay, hello. Good morning, members of the board. My name is Tina Marie Giordano. I'm here today to address the corruption that I've experienced with the misconduct of the Trinity County Sheriff's Office. I'm appearing before you today because the California Attorney General has sent me back a letter to my response of PIU 1458447 to exhaust my local administrative remedies. For nearly 2 years, I have been denied my basic rights as a victim. I have been calling repeatedly to the sheriff office, to the I sent emails. I've called the victims of violence directory. I've tried so many times to get my case heard, my rights. I was attacked. I was assaulted. I was robbed. And I don't know if you know how bad the crime is in Burt Ranch right now, but it is extremely bad. And I had just barely moved up there. I was only there for 3 weeks. Okay. And regardless of how many times I've called, not one person, not one deputy, one sheriff, the watch guard, man, no one's ever returned my phone call. And I had repeatedly sent emails so many times. This is my violation of victim rights under Marcy's Law, which are violated every single day in this town. The department's misconduct, they were not treating me as a victim. The reporting officers that committed the material omission of evidence by failing to accurately file my phone as stolen during the assault. Despite me providing timestamp emails and find my iPhone data to Deputy Strauss in February, providing that the perpetrator was still in possession of my device, the department still ignored the evidence. In fact, the failure to actually file the report led to the district attorney's office to claim I'm not a victim. They're minimizing violent assaults involving a firearm discharge, tasers, and the call on placed by a third party was then defined as whoever committed the crime or whoever calls first is the victim. The misconduct and lack of response. The sheriff's office in direct violation of policy 320.5.8 regarding accuracy of filing a police report, policy 318 regarding victim assistance. I have not received a single return phone call, and mandatory victim rights handouts are required by law. It's not just a lack of resources. This is targeted neglect of duty. Perpetrators are allowed to keep stolen property and walk free in Burnt Ranch because the deputies refuse to document the facts accurately. We cannot have Proposition 36 enforced if for community safety if the police report itself is a lie. The formal demand And we really do. We need the sheriffs, we need more police patrol out there in Burnt Ranch. I mean, there's the Proposition 36 would help the repeat offenders to get felonies instead of just misdemeanors.
Ma'am,
Yes.
your public comment period time is up. Thank you.
Well, I really hope you guys are going to do something about this because it's been over 2 years and I'm still
Thank you for your comments. Your time is up.
wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Do we have any further public comment online?
I have no additional raised hands.
Thank you. We will now close public comment. Do you see an individual?
Hello.
We will allow you 3 minutes of public comment.
To who? To me?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. I'm Krasimir Yordanov. Good morning of all of the supervisors, known like Chris Yordanov, as Chris Yordanov from Kayampom. Do you hear me?
Yes, sir. Continue.
And I'm here to talk about the same thing as Richard from TVC, Ben, and Lisa about all those extensions and all those things required from DOT. My project is already 9 years for subdivision. Actually, it's not a real sub. It's take out 4 parts of my property to become a 5. And now, after big fight for years, I had extension just 2 years ago. And I had to change, of course, the engineers, and I start all over again my process. But how usually happen, and depends again 2 months before due date expire of the extension. Again, they start hammering me with different requirements as easement of the public road or all that absurd things happen, but the biggest problem is always happen on the last moments. Then for 2 years, I didn't have any requirements except just simple things. And now all of a sudden, last 2 weeks, I need to do so many things like geotechnical report again of my soil. I had that already, but it's already been so long, so they need again. But this needs like 6 to 8 months and $60,000 again. So I don't know. It's really difficult with the Department of Transportation, especially Andy Pence, pushing that, and he always waiting on the last moment as much as he can hurt you. So to make things not happen. I don't know if he enjoys personally that or that giving him the position he taking. But this is it's ridiculous. It's unacceptable. It's impossible to do the things. I already changed the 3 engineers companies and 2 survey companies. And now even this survey, he's ready to quit. So last 2 years, I spent $150,000 more, I can tell with the numbers, to do all over again. And now 2 months before expiration day, again, I get hammered. I don't know. I don't want to think this is a personal because it seems like happened to most of the county, but this is, I don't know. It's never end. It's never end. It's just we feel helpless and nobody to complain on. There's no way even to do a lawsuit because he's protected. Then it's only you are our hope to change something in this county because of that. And I'm permanent resident. I want to tell you that I'm permanent president in this county. I'm not just temporary here.
Sir, your public
Thank
comment
you very much.
time has expired. Thank you. We will now conclude our public comment period for this meeting. Thank you. I'm sorry? Okay, one moment. I just want to let the folks know that we will check into these items that have been brought before us today through our CAO and our department heads. So thank you very much. We will now take a 10-minute break and return to our agenda. We will now reconvene the meeting of the Trinity County Board of Supervisors. We will pick up with item C, reports and announcements. We will now take reports from department heads.
Members of the board, Brian Ward with the Sheriff's Office. CEO Ted will ask me to come up here and speak to the latest with our radio communication sites. As you know, the Sheriff's Office basically took over responsibility of working on these sites around the beginning of the year. System that we're working on, I've been here 25 years and it's been in place since then with no upgrades that I'm aware of. And when talking to people, they're saying it's probably 30 years or better. So we're dealing with an old, outdated system. Since taking on the project, even though there hadn't been any work done, we were getting more and more reports of communication issues with both the sheriff's office and with volunteer fire departments, and even the paging issues were getting worse to the point that some of the volunteer fire departments were not getting their pages. So April 6th, we were able to get day wireless up to the site. Some of the work that was done, they were able to replace several of the antennas up there, replacing the old ones that were definitely in need of being replaced. Several of the antennas they were able to reconfigure that over time. They were either not necessarily configured right the first place, or most likely what had happened that over time with weather and stuff, they probably got moved. So they were able to readjust some of those antennas, and then also take down some of the equipment that was up on these poles that's no longer in use. And stuff that hopefully it doesn't cause any problems. That equipment's been taken down. While they did that, they also did additional testing up at the site of some of their radio equipment, duplexers, things along those lines. Since that repair work has been done, good thing is we've had some weather on the equipment. So the equipment has actually been tested instead of just having nice sunny days. We've had some close to freezing temperatures. We've had rain, we've had wind, and the reports coming back with the work that has been done has been positive.
Okay.
Sheriff's deputies have noticed a difference. The volunteer fire departments have all said that they've noticed a difference, and the paging has greatly improved. So that's good news. Still a lot of work left to do on the site. So right now, moving forward, what they're working on is getting the testing that was completed up there, getting those reports back to see what equipment needs to be prioritized in this project to be replaced, and then getting quotes put together and getting day wireless back up there to get this work completed. So, so at this point in time, that's kind of where we're at with our project, and where we're at moving forward with it. Is there any questions that you guys have of us at this time?
Go ahead, Supervisor Fox.
I don't think you can answer it, but possibly in kind of more of a general way, but we have been receiving questions about like, where do we stand with our current budget? We have money that we have received, part of that was allocated. That's what you're using at this point. Do you have a sense of like kind of how far what we have will take us?
I don't have a solid number on what we have left. We do know that there has been some money that OES has found in some of the grants that they have that are coming close to expiring, that we're trying to use some of that money to put towards this project to save some of the money that we had originally put in place. But it's going to kind of see where it comes out with this quote, because now we're starting to get into the stuff that we went after first was the antennas. That was stuff that people identified that they felt would have a good impact, which I believe we've seen that. Also being some of the least expensive. Now we're looking at starting to get into some of the work with the radios and duplexers, things along those lines, grounding work. That's going to get a little more expensive. So how far will the money that we have in there take us? I don't have an answer for that. But again, that's going to come down to prioritizing what is necessary and putting that forth, getting that work completed, and then moving forward with everything else that we can.
Thank you. Any other questions on the board?
I just wanted to be clear. I think what I had heard before was that we were going to move from Oregon Mountain then over to Hayfork because that was the next second highest potential problem area. Have we begun that work, or we're still phasing,
We're
getting
still
ready for that one?
focused on the Oregon side
Oh,
right
still
now.
doing, okay.
Yes. So,
Okay.
and there's some work with the Hayfork site that we need to look at from a structural standpoint before we start doing too much work with the equipment. There's a structure that's failing over there that would need to be replaced. There's kind of no sense in putting new updated equipment into a failed structure. I think the priority over at that site will have to be trying to fix the structure, and that's going to be working with the Forest Service and their property in order to get that structure fixed and up to standard, so then we can then put the equipment in there.
Okay, thanks. And CEO Tuttle, you may be addressing this later, but I think from what you had shared with me before, we're still haven't used up half of that funding that we obtained.
Right. So the first funding that we'd obtained was the $180,000 from the state. And that, as a reminder, goes towards the part-time employee that we have as a project manager for this effort. So that is part of that funding. That funding was also used as the initial evaluation by Day Wireless for this effort, which was in the $10,000 range. This last effort that they did, like Under Sheriff Ward mentioned, we're using some OES grant money that was going to expire by the end of May. So we're able to use that money, and all the financial wizards are making that happen right now. So that will cover, we believe, the vast majority of the work that was just done up there, which is about, in the less than $25,000 range. So we still do have a little bit of the funding left based upon what the next priorities are going to be to continue the project. And that is our plan right now. And we will continue to meet with the OES group to prioritize and identify those funds that we have in there, as that's an annual cyclical process as well.
Further questions or comments? Thank you. Do we have any further department head reports in the room? Seeing none, any online?
I see no raised hands and no department heads unmuting.
Okay, thank you. I just want to remind the county that all department head reports can be found on those departments' websites. If you have interest in those, please take the time to navigate to each department head's or each department site and look for the department head reports. We will now move to our report out from our county administrative officer, Mr. Tuthill.
Thank you, Chair. So I'll start off my comments with a quality of service recognition. This is to one of our newest employees in the elections arena, and I'm sure I will mess up the pronunciation of her name. So that's a guaranteed, but it's Roquejo. And a nice online form came in. All the areas, were checked very good, and how wonderful the experience was. But keep in mind, this is in essence, a brand new employee. And, one of the comments that part of the comment that stuck out to me in the written part was it was refreshing to interact with this individual. So very good. We've already given kudos to her through her department head, but just wanted to bring that forward to the board as well.
Great.
Our recruitment video project is coming together quite well, and weather permitting, the company will be in the county for the final 3 days of video shooting at the end of the month, April 27th through the 29th. They'll be interviewing different individuals from our sheriff's office, probation, DOT, and HHSA as they are conducting some of the functions associated with their daily jobs. The company's already visited the county on 2 separate occasions to gather what they call B-roll footage, and they've been very, very happy and satisfied with the footage they have so far. The project should come to completion by early summer, and then we will be able to use this as an employee recruitment tool, and then for other venues where professional footage is desired and needed. As part of the overall general plan and zoning code update project, the public review draft document is now available for review. It's available on the Trinity 2050 webpage, the same site where all other documents associated with the whole general plan update project have resided and will continue to reside. There are 7 parts to the zoning code update, approximately 394 pages of your reading pleasure. And they're in addition to a map that shows all proposed zoning districts per APN throughout the county. You do need to, go in, once you click on the APN, you do need to go to like the second page of what that pop-up brings up as far as the information to see what the proposed new zoning district is. But all the information is there. It was tested out yesterday afternoon, right before we went live with this effort. The county is asking for input on the document, and written specific comments are preferred. The next public meeting and engagement is scheduled for May 19th and 20th. And all this information is also posted on the Trinity 2050 website. The May 19th meeting is a special meeting from 2 to approximately 9 p.m. To accommodate any individuals who might want to participate who are working during the day. And then on May 20th will be a special meeting from 9 to approximately 5 p.m. There has been an e-blast that's gone out. There will be more. There's been a media post to our county webpage. There's going to be social media post, multiple advertisements for making sure that the next public meetings are advertised, but also the fact that this document is out there for public review. We've got it out there in more than adequate time for the public and anybody interested to review this document well in advance of the next scheduled public meetings, which again is the 19th and 20th. The California Fish and Game Commission met on the April 15th and 16th, and the California Department of Fish and Wildlife is recommending some form of in-river salmon fishing in the Trinity River this season. The commission will make the final decision at their May 6th meeting. The Board of Supervisors letter signed in February on this topic has been submitted as part of official comments for all prior meetings, and has also been submitted as an official comment for the May 6th meeting. So we'll continue to follow that, but things are looking promising. Late Friday afternoon, we were notified by the California Department of Housing and Community Development, known as HCD, that they looked favorably upon the county application for the pro-housing designation. So that's very good news. Official release is forthcoming from the governor's office, at which time we will provide the full details and a full press release. Finally, the settlement agreement in the Ortiz versus Trinity County, case number 221 CV 02248 DJCAC, is now final, and the documents are retained and available for anyone to review in the administration office. And that's all I've got for now.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments from the board to ask CA of Toad Hill? Seeing none, we will now move into our report outs from our boards of supervisor, and we will start with Supervisor Brownfield.
Good morning. Been pretty quiet on the home front for meetings, but I am asking our communities to look at this zoning update. I will be having a town hall the first week of May, and I'm not quite sure what that date will be. I'm asking constituents to help me with that, but there will be a town hall on it. There's plenty of time now between this date and May 19th and 20th for them to engage with me and the county on their concerns about it or support. So I'm working on that. We are also working on a wolf resolution that will be out probably, hopefully next meeting. And I'm looking for ranchers and people who are interested in this issue to to reach out and let us know what their thoughts are on it so that when we go into that meeting, we'll have some information and some pros and cons. So I'm looking for help with my community and Trinity County on that. No out of county travel, and I look forward to my town hall.
Thank you. Supervisor Cox?
Having missed the last meeting, this is going to be a little more lengthy. I have a whole month of things to report out on, so I'll try to move along. March 25th, I did have out-of-county travel as I attended the RCRC board meeting, as well as I then followed that up by attending the legislative virtual update on the 26th, which I do monthly. I don't know why I don't mention that, but RCRC does help us to track bills that we need to keep an eye on. In response to that, I did send a personal letter of opposition to Senate Bill 1404. This bill would reinstate the fire prevention fee of up to $150 per each habitable structure within the state responsibility area effective January 1 of 2027. I'm going to have materials and a suggested letter of collective opposition for us at the next meeting. As process goes, this bill is set for hearing in the Senate Revenue and Taxation Committee tomorrow. On March 26th, I attended the Fire Safe Council meeting. I did watch the meeting that I missed and was pleased to hear our Fire Safe Council leadership report out on all of those things and connecting a dot between what goes on there and how the Forest Service also utilizes that information when they plan their projects, I think is an important thing to really recognize. Spring chipping is underway. So you can find that information on the RCD website. So that is tcrcd.net. So if you've got fuels that could utilize removal through the chipping process, that's free to you. You just need to hop online and sign up for that. April 1st and 2nd, I engaged with Senator Schiff's Northern California field rep, and I heard all of you would do your report outs on this, and was pleased to hear that Supervisor Brownfield and Supervisor Gogan had good engagement with him as well, since we can't do this collectively. I am currently now in contact with Senator Padilla's field rep. His name is Roberto Arteaga. He's been very responsive to me. I have offered him the same sort of all things Trinity visit. If he would like to engage with us in the same way, I would be happy to set that up for him as well, and hope that he will find some time to take us up on that. But more to the point, to be able to engage with him over the congressionally directed spending dollar application. So I spoke with him about it on the phone. He said he's already done his review of the many that they received. It's out of his hands, but I asked if he would put me in touch with their chief of staff or the individual who is responsible for their DC review of that document, and he is doing that. I have been in contact with Brian Daly, candidate for lieutenant governor. He will be in town on Monday, April 27th for conversations with our board, 2x2. And I would just like to highlight that this is representative of the importance of our travel budget dollars. This opportunity occurred because I bothered to stay for the reception following the January RCRC meeting that celebrates all those that are newly in their positions. And it's one of those things where the room is large, it's noisy, in my opinion, it's uncomfortable. But you do it because this is where we meet people that otherwise we would not have met. And there I engaged with both Brian and Megan Daly, and that's where he said, oh, Trinity County, I would love to come there. Can I have your phone number? And then we are texting, and then he's coming, and that's thanks to a travel budget that puts supervisors in such rooms. On April 3rd, I met with Detailed Forest Supervisor Tracy Zimmerly and Tara Jones in her role as Detailed Deputy Forest Supervisor. Our three main topics there were the potential reclaiming of funds in contract for obligated projects, the incident management team processes as we head into fire season, and the potential for sale of small tracts of public land embedded within our communities. On April 7th, I was in Stevenson, Washington, which is why I did miss the last board meeting. I attended the American Foresters Resource Council annual meeting where USDA Chief Tom Schultz was our keynote speaker. I would like to note that no public funds were utilized for that trip. That did not come out of the travel budget. He shared at length his data-driven optimism regarding the reorganization that is currently underway. He described his commitment to public service and serving his country and the need to change broken systems to better serve the long-term interests of our country and the American people. He emphasized that there is a lot of misinformation floating around and encouraged people to get the facts regarding all of the reorganization that is going on. I'm happy to share anything further on his address with anyone who is interested. I also, as a part of the conference, was able to attend a Region 5 breakout session and engage directly with the Stanislaus National Forest Supervisor, Jason Queekin, in a conversation about incident management team structure and productivity, as he had shared that California is currently down by 2 incident management teams, and we are down by 2 further nationally. I learned from him that he and Forest Supervisor Berkey often work together and have a good working relationship. So I plan to follow up with her on this topic at our next quarterly meeting, which is August 7th. On April 13th, I was at the fire chiefs meeting. The fire chiefs are pleased to be joined this month by, his name is Andres Avila. He is the Cal Chiefs representative for Del Norte, Humboldt, Mendocino, and Trinity counties. He described a white paper that was released in February of 25, which is presently gaining increased traction, and encouraged the Board of Supervisors to adopt a supporting resolution, which then could be forwarded to the governor and state legislators in support of local fire districts and the essential work that they perform. So Chair Carpenter Harris, I have already shared the information with her, and she and I will work together to put this on a agenda for consideration by the board. Chief Avila also described how it's called the BEAR, the Burned Area Emergency Response. It's a post-wildfire emergency program, how this could benefit our departments. And so that representative will be at the next fire chiefs meeting. It did seem as though, I just was pleased that this gentleman showed up. He just was describing the travel constraints to live in Mendocino County and need to get information to Trinity County, but here he was, and so now we're in touch. That's good. The Big Bar Station is desperate in need of volunteer firefighters. That was reported out at the fire chiefs meeting, but in relationship to that, today at 4 p.m., there's a LAFCO meeting here in this room where LAFCO commissioners will receive and discuss the Downriver Fire Services Municipal Service Review and Sphere of Influence Update, which both describes and quantifies this problem. The public, as always, is invited and encouraged to attend. On April 14th, I attended the Caltrans Memorial Service. That was an exquisitely beautiful time. That is something I did not know occurred. It occurs annually. It rotates location throughout the state year by year. And this is the first year that Weaverville has been able to be host to that event. I would say that for myself, I will look at every Caltrans worker differently since having attended that event. I think we check the Caltrans schedule to find out how delayed we're going to be. Instead, when I see a Caltrans worker in the future, I'll pause and say thank you, because you left your families today to make our highways better, to make them safer. And you don't know that you're going to go home tonight. And we visited the stories of many who did not. I also appreciated, as was shared, that there is an unusually tight relationship in our region between Caltrans and the Highway Patrol. And I love this because we know what it means to have those increased relationships as far as forest health and fire prevention with all of our many partners. We are very unique And it was wonderful to learn that the CHP and Caltrans in our area have the same uniqueness of relationship. And so thank you to all the Caltrans workers and your families. On April 15th, I attended Senator McGuire's virtual town hall. While there was acknowledgement of the vehicle extrication equipment that Trinity County Volunteer Fire Departments collectively received in 2025, the information from that town hall was predominantly focused on fire response to our south. April 20th, yesterday, Supervisor Lutweiler and I attended the PSA 2 meeting. For the Older Americans Act budget, we expect to see a 20% reduction in funding in the upcoming budget cycle. The federal administration is proposing a 10% reduction in spending in all areas outside of national defense. With that, though a little further out on the horizon, the good news is larger jurisdictions have not been fully implementing or spending down the allocations that they have received. So there is a proposal to reallocate their unused portions to jurisdictions who are consistently utilizing their funds to capacity. And so PSA 2, we are one of those that our administrative staff does a wonderful job of making sure that monies received get spent to the very best of their ability. And so we could expect to see an increase in 32% of overall funding for our seniors. Again, that is far out on the horizon. The Weaverville community meeting regarding the draft zoning ordinance, I've already put some publicity out, and I don't know how soon it will hit the journal. It still will be on May 12th, which is a Tuesday, from 5 to 7 p.m. I said that it would be at the CD hall, which I had reserved, and General Services is all primed to set chairs up for us. And then I received an email from a constituent who said that the acoustics in that room are very challenging for such an event, and for that reason, they would not feel comfortable to come. So I just moved the event into this room. It's free, it's booked, it's very comfortable to be in. And so Supervisor Lutwell and I will co-host for the Weaverville Basin because it involves both District 1 and 2. So again, May 12th, 5 to 7. And then my last item is to thank Director Kokas. You can hop onto the DOT page of the county website and read this for yourself, but I'm very thankful to him for the work that he is doing toward pedestrian activated crossing signals here on Highway 299. I would say there are currently traffic counters in place, and I would ask you to please go cross the street a lot. Would help. And that is the end of my report.
Thank you. We will now move to Supervisor Weiler.
Finish up my notes from Supervisor Cox. So I did have some out-of-county travel since the last meeting. I was in San Diego for the CSAC board retreat. I think about 40 of the 58 supervisors on the board did make it to the retreat. We spent the better part of a day, mostly focused on how we can be more effective in sharing information and engaging, because CSAC is obviously often working to try to represent our needs and helping us better understand what they're doing, have opportunities to provide input on that position and how to support it. One of the things that I encouraged the staff to consider is not just being better about how they prepare us to support CSAC initiatives that are on our behalf, but help us be better at supporting our own day-to-day initiatives from a communication and engagement standpoint. Because my position was, as we build more trust, because we're more effective at communicating locally, then when you want us to help promote something that is a statewide initiative, we will have more credibility and trust and respect with our own constituents. And so I hope that has taken on. One of the things that was a couple interesting factoids that were shared by the CSAC CEO. Since 2020, 200 plus new county supervisors have attended the New Supervisor Institute. That is 68% of the 290 supervisors for the state.
Wow.
So
That's a lot of
that's
new-
that high a percentage of new supervisors. And there are some that, you know, have continued to continue, but other positions have turned over multiple times. But it was a pretty big number. The other one that goes with that is 65 new CAOs, CEOs have been hired in that time frame.
Wow.
There's only 58 counties. So in 4 years, on average, turnover of almost every one, or more than one. So again, pointing to there is a lot of turnover, there is a lot of new blood for better or worse, and how do we do a better job of then educating, informing, engaging, collaborating with those people. So it was interesting, and the kinds of things we can't do during the normal board meetings because we're just like we do here, processing business when we don't have time to sit back and dig in. Attended the Behavioral Health Advisory Board meeting last week. We reviewed plans, website changes, discussed priorities. With Nortec that I've mentioned before, it's been a lot of big investment of time, but at this point, we're having weekly virtual meetings just to kind of keep track of progress being made on that workforce development board. As Supervisor Koch mentioned, I was in the PSA 2 meeting. One of the notes I took away from that, I think the net of what Supervisor Cox was describing is, as I took it down, we anticipate $187,000 reduction in funding for the next fiscal year. The combination of those things is that what she was describing, bottom line to that impact for next year. And of course, some of that's up in the air because the federal recommendation to reduce by 10% is just a proposed, and we don't know yet what's going to happen with the state. And ideally, that 32% increase that she mentioned will come a couple years later and help us recoup. I previously mentioned that I am accepted an invitation to participate in the Sierra Day event that'll happen on the 28th. I had a meeting yesterday with Sierra Nevada Conservancy executive to help prepare for that day. I've reached out to our RCD Watershed Center, our own natural resources group here to just make sure that I go in as fully informed as possible to advocate on behalf of our part of the state. And then there is a virtual meeting with all the participants of the Sierra Day event later this week. The tourism funding ad hoc, we met to discuss next steps. This is a group that's focused on the Tourism Business Investment District. We now have updated data and a new tracking document for our final push, if you will. And rather than focusing on group meetings, which I had anticipated might be the best next step, the group that had been more heavily doing outreach shared that they felt that really wasn't the best next step, that we really do need is targeted outreach to some of the key individuals. And one of the things that was interesting is to look at the list in prioritized order is that the top 26 lodging business owners of the 60 plus lodging business owners represent around 90% of the weighted vote. So all votes, if you will, are important. We're just trying to track what will it take to get to the 51% that would be required to put this in motion. And we're more than halfway there right now based on what people have indicated to this point. Supervisor Cox mentioned the zoning ordinance meetings. I will join her for the one here in Weaverville for that portion of District 1. And because District 1 has some larger boundaries, I'll also have one in Trinity Center on May 5th from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. and in Lewiston on May 7th from 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. And again, as CEO Tuttle mentioned, we've got public hearings coming up. We've had opportunities with the Planning Commission. We're just trying to acknowledge that giving people plenty of opportunities to weigh in about or ask questions about this is really important. And one of the things I've been trying to do is figure out how to package that up so that the notice about the meetings is compelling. We've all been to plenty of meetings where we reach out, we publicize it, and nobody shows up. And so I'm starting to look at questions that maybe I'll publish it as, are you okay with 32 chickens next to you? I'm just trying to find something that gets people to wake up and say, oh, I might actually care about what's in this document. So maybe I should show up to the meeting. So I'm still kicking that around and we'll see what happens. I'm sure I'll get some pushback, but I'd rather get the pushback and have some people show up. That's my update.
Supervisor Gogan?
Yes, I attended the two-day TMC meeting, last part of last month. Thank you so much. Couple things to take away from that meeting is, there will only be one gravel augmentation this year. It'll be 2,000 cubic yards on Steel Bridge Road, just downstream from the day use area. That's been completed. That will be the only gravel augmentation that will be done this year. And they also added 6 trees for fish habitat there. I've been getting a lot of emails and text about the trucks that are being seen up and around Lewiston, Goose Ranch Road area, transporting a lot of gravel. That gravel is going to called a storage site where they keep their gravel for future gravel augmentations. A lot of people think that gravel is coming out of the river right now because it's wet. What they have to do is wash that gravel so it doesn't bring anything harmful to the fish once it gets into the river. So that is it for this calendar year. There'll be no more gravel augmentation at all, which is probably a good thing. This year's designation for water year will be a dry year. We missed a normal year by 10,000 acre feet, which is an unbelievably thin margin considering we had an inflow of 1,015,000 acre feet. If we'd have had just 10,000 more than that, we'd have bumped up from a dry year to a normal year, which would have, we'll say, cost Trinity Lake several 100,000 acre feet that we probably need to keep in there, knowing that last year was dry and not knowing what the future will bring. Patrick Flynn put together some hydrographs for a dry year, and they were accepted at that meeting. The next spike in our flow will be later, the 24th to the 27th. It'll only be up to about 4,300 CFS, and then it'll start dropping down to standard flows of about 450 throughout the summer, which is fairly normal in dry and normal years. And that will be down about the 4th of July. It'll be down to 450. We did get a hatchery update. There was about 68 or just short than $70 million allocated to our hatchery for refurbishing it. Derek Rupert put on a great presentation and showed us some of the 2 hatcheries that have been kind of gone through the same way in the last few years. And more than likely, we will probably fall a little bit short cash-wise on that. And the expectation date was going to be 2028. I would imagine that date will be pushed back. Nonetheless, they are moving forward with it. I'm not sure if we're going to stay with that $68 million or try to get some more funding for that, because I'm positive that will not be enough money to do what we had previously thought we were going to do. We also had some really, really good news. We kind of broke down a barrier that we had between Trinity River Restoration Program and what they considered to be restoration of the river. And their mission statement is to restore the river to pre-dam days of natural fish, salmon and steelhead. And, that is pretty much never going to happen, would have never happened. So there was 2 presentations, or especially one presentation that was put on that let restoration and the people there know, and it was put on by George Kutsky by the Hooper Valley Tribe, that incorporating a hatchery, especially a new modernized hatchery, into the restoration goals of getting back to pre-dam days of fish, not wild fish. Would be so much easier to accomplish if restoration accepted the fact that fish were just fish. We're never going to get to the wild fish population that we were, in the 1950s, early 1960s. So I'm going to try to get both George Kutsky here from the Hooper Valley Tribe to give a presentation, and Rupert to give a presentation on the hatchery, the updates, some of the other stuff that they've done at hatcheries, which was very inspiring and a great presentation. I'm going to go out on a little further limb than CAO Tudhill on our fish limits for this year. I am very, very much hoping for a 2 fish limit. It looks good. We will know shortly if that is the case, and a 2 fish limit will be 1 adult. Well, you can have 2 fish per day, of which no more than 1 could be an adult salmon. So you could either have 1 adult, 1 jack, or 2 jacks, which will be, a very nice thing for us to finally have after 3 years of closures, and the economic impact that the salmon fishing brings to our community is a lot. That and saving a bunch of water in Trinity Lake, I think, will be 2 big. Let's hope they're 2 big economic boosts for our county. I did have a town hall meeting in Hayfork last week, the week before, and I just want to point out a couple things that were brought to my attention there. One of them was the Hmong opened up a cultural, United Cultural Center in Hayfork, and it'll do with culture, education, collaboration, and just general use for the Hayfork Hmong people and the Hmong outside of Hayfork. So that is open. That goes in combination with the monument. I think Supervisor Lutweiler was there with the monument that we had a couple years back put up in the park, which was very nice. And now they have their own place to meet and gather. I also went to, during that town hall, one of the bigger things that we came away with is that the Cemetery Association is in dire need of help, both with board members and with people to help keep the cemetery looking good, and it does look good. I go by there quite a bit, and it looks really good. But their board members are timing out, and they're getting not very many volunteers to help once a month to clean up the park. So if anybody would like to sign up for the board, let me know, and I'll get hold of the people there. They have 1 meeting a month. It's the last Thursday of every month at 6:30 at the community center on Tully Creek Road. And if anybody would like to weed eat, pick weeds, do whatever out there as far as maintenance goes, they use the last Saturday of the month for working on the cemetery from 9 a.m. till noon. And just a constant reminder that, make sure that if you know anybody that wants to participate in the Dolly Parton Book Foundation, which gives a book to every child between 0 and 5 years old once a month for those 5 years, sign up, get hold of me, get hold of the Rotary Club in Hayfork. You get those books free, you get to keep them, and it will establish, some of your first library and get your reading fairly quick. And I will leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. I did have a bit of out of county travel, but just into neighboring counties this last time period between the last board meeting and now. I attended a Northwest California RC&D Council meeting, and I'm happy to report out that 2 of their primary projects on Little Grass Valley Creek and Manzanita Creek will be advancing. During that meeting, there was a request made from a Humboldt County supervisor, which I concur with. Historically, for anyone who may remember the Five Counties project. We had quite a significant, uh, I guess, best management practices folder created, and then there was an opportunity for the 5 counties involved in this to be able to send their road crews for best management practices on the reduction of erosion that converts into sediment delivery. And there was a request made that we revisit that training opportunity with our county roads departments, as many of the people who had historically participated in that have potentially retired or moved on, and it would be a really nice refresher opportunity for our younger crews to go through this best management practices program that was developed historically by the 5 counties, but now is represented by the Northwest California RCND. I think that would be something that we should deeply consider. I also attended the North Coast Resource Partnership meeting along with Supervisor Gogan. We had, he was able to attend both Thursday and Friday, and I was only able to attend on Friday. That was a very robust meeting, very, very heavy agenda. I am excited to report out that there were 3 primary projects within my district that were funded. One went to the Sonungwe of California, another to the Naromic Band of Wintu, and then a cross-county project was funded with the Willow Creek Fire Safe Council that incorporates both Humboldt and Trinity County for fuels reduction projects. So this is all good advancement towards making more fire resilient communities. I do want to put a little word out that something that folks may want to keep an eye on, especially larger landowners, is the North Coast Water Quality Control Board is beginning the process of putting together a region-wide road order on private roads, which would, there will be adequate public comment period and time to review that. I think it's set to come out in 2028, but that will create an environment where private landowners will be held responsible for any negative wastewater discharge. So you will need to be aware of and begin to participate in that region-wide road order. Also, the California Water Plan update is in the process of hearing from its they're going to be having a advisory committee and a tribal water summit for the planning team. If you have interest in that, I would encourage you to go to the California Water Plan update. I believe it will link you directly to their website. I attended the North Coast Air Quality Management District. Right now, that meeting was primarily centered around their budget and the utilization of their regulatory requirements. I also attended the U.S. Forest Service Partner event. I did come in halfway through, although I will have to say that it looks like it was widely attended. The food was abundant, and there was a lot of conversations. And having grown up as a child with a dad who worked for the Forest Service, I still get a warm feeling in my heart when I see all of those uniforms. So it's just, it brings I don't know. I just like the nostalgia of all of the Forest Service uniforms. And it's just nice to be in that community with all of those folks that are working hard for us. I also want to point out that, as was mentioned by Supervisor Brownfield, that we are watching the Siskiyou wolf pack called the whaleback pack. I think the whaleback pack. Their sightings are getting closer and closer to our borders, and I am personally keeping an eye out on the grizzly study that has passed into the next phase, as Trinity County is a county that has been chosen for the release if this was to move forward. I would encourage everyone who has a concern about both the wolves and the grizzlies to please begin to contact your state assembly member and your state senator, and also just follow that so that your voices can be heard in that matter. I was happy to see that the Cal Fish and Wildlife increased the take of bears by 1 tag per season. So we now, a bear hunter may have the opportunity to harvest two bears in the future. I know that around my neck of the woods, the bear population has grown exponentially in the last few years, and it is really having an impact on other wildlife in our area. I've also just want to report out that I have been receiving, as all of us do, our emails and phone calls from our constituency, and work hard to try to respond to those when I can. It is helpful when you leave me a voicemail if you leave me your contact information. If you just call and give me a bunch of information and don't give me any way to reach back to you, then I cannot do that. So please follow up with an email or make the message again and leave me your contact information so that I can reach back out to you. So that is the close of my report out. And I just want to say thank you to everyone on this board. We all work together, and so much more happens than what you see here on these board of supervisors days, and everyone is busy doing the best work that they can. So with that, we will close board member reports out and move to our ad hocs with tourism funding. Do you have anything to report on that?
I do. Wanted to let people know I was not able to attend because of the PSA2 meeting, but the 2-6 digital group that we funded several sessions for the Trinity County Chamber and other interested parties. That meeting took place yesterday. And I thought it might be helpful just to share real quickly the high-level view of the agenda items they were reviewing, as I want this board to understand how the money that we approved is being invested. So the things that they were covering with 2-6 Digital, who only does tourism on like digital marketing, they were looking at audience targeting and paid media strategy, analytics and measurement, retargeting and optimizing conversions. And if you don't know what retargeting means, that basically means if you're going through and you look at something online and it tracks that you did that, then it's going to push more ads to you about that than other things because it knows you're interested. So to the extent that somebody shows some interest in some aspect of Trinity County, then we double down on that person versus just trying to do the masses. Nurturing audiences and life cycle marketing. So we got people coming, how do we get them to come back, come more often, stay longer, do other things? Content and creative strategy, event promotion strategies, and tools and technology. So that's just one session. That's what they hope to cover yesterday. And they are providing us with the recordings that I know Drew was hoping to get posted on our website. I haven't seen it yet, but I think that was still the plan. And so that way, anybody can go and look at what was delivered through those video taped sessions, whether that's staff, board, or other interested parties in the community.
On that note, I will pass the information over to Supervisor Lutweiler. I did have an extended conversation with a producer of Meg Ryan's show that she does on public broadcasting. They contacted me, had a curiosity to find out whether or not our county would like to be one of their featured counties in their public broadcasting on communities around small communities and rural communities around the nation. Although that all sounds fantastic, the one thing is we had to invest $34,000 in order for them to come here and create that for us. And so I do not believe we have that in the budget. However, if you feel like you want to explore that greater, I will give you the email to the producer.
Yeah, I think if I had $1 for every time I was told that I could be highlighted as the most successful CEO in the world,
yes,
for only $5,000.
Yes.
Yeah, it's funny the way they do things sometimes, but thank you. I will take a look.
So we will now close out our reports and announcements and move on to our consent calendar. These items include routine, non-controversial matters and will be acted upon by the board by one roll call motion. If a member of the public has any questions or comments on an item on the consent calendar, they may provide them now. A member of the board or staff may request an item to be pulled and considered separately. Do we have any public comment on our consent calendar in the room? Seeing none, do we have any online?
I have no raised hands.
I will now close public comment on the consent calendar. Does anyone on the board wish to hear an item or pull an item?
I don't want to pull it. I just want to make a comment on one, on D10.
Okay.
I don't need to pull it.
I will now take a motion to move on the consent calendar.
I'll move approval.
I will second.
Okay, with that, Supervisor Brownfield, would you like to make your comment or question on an item?
Yeah, so this certification on the miles in our county, I know our constituents have back roads that haven't been attended as much as they probably could be. But we also need to understand that the work that's been done this year and the cooperation that is going on with the DOT and this office. And so I really appreciate what they're doing, the steps they're taking to improve our roads. There are some legislative things that are a problem here about registered vehicles. The amount of registered vehicles is tied to the amount of money that we get in Trinity County. So that's something that we can't do anything about until we reach the legislative bodies on that. I am working very hard with the DOT, and they are cooperating on improving our roads and improving our back roads. So be patient. Understand that we are working really hard to do that and that it will happen. It's just going to take time and a way to look at our resources and use them correctly. So I am going to agree to the certification. I understand the opposition to it, but you have to trust me in this position that you put me in, and we will address it and we will conquer, but it's going to take time. So thank you, and thank you to the DOT for their work this year.
Any further comments regarding consent calendar? Seeing none, we'll now call for the vote.
Supervisor Leweiler?
Aye.
Supervisor Cox?
Aye.
Supervisor Gogan?
Aye.
Supervisor Brownfield?
Aye.
Chairman Carpenter Harris?
Aye.
Thank you.
We will now close, motion carries. We'll now move to county matters, item E. These items include non-routine or controversial matters and are listed alphabetically by department. A member of the board, staff, or public may request that an item be heard out of order. Moving on to item E1, agriculture. Waive the reading of and enact an ordinance establishing Trinity County Code Section 8.23 prohibiting industrial hemp cultivation, introduced April 7th, 2026. Proceed.
Good morning, Chair and board members. Angela Blanchard, Agricultural Commissioner. This is the second reading of the hemp ordinance for your adoption. Do you have any questions? Thank you.
Do we have any questions from the board? Seeing none, do we have any public comment?
I have no raised hands.
No public comment in the room or online. We will close public comment. I will now take a motion.
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Do we have any questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote, please.
Supervisor Brownfield?
Aye.
Supervisor Cox?
Aye.
Supervisor Leweiler?
Aye.
Supervisor Gogan?
Aye.
Chairman Carpenter Harris?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
sticking with us. Sorry it took so
Yes.
long to get there.
We will now move into closed session. We will be reviewing item F1, Government Code Section 54954.5E, Public Employee Evaluation, County Administrative Officer. Do we have any public comment? Seeing none in the room, any online?
I have no raised hands.
Okay, thank you. We will now adjourn the open session.
We need to do a report out from the last meeting. This is from last.
That was the last.
Yeah, but the report out on the last closed session.
Okay. The report out on the last closed session was item F1, Government Code Section 54954.5C, Conference with Legal Counsel, Existing Litigation, Number of Cases 1, National Prescription Opioid Litigation, MLD Master Docket Number 117-MD2804. I believe that direction was given to staff. Thank you. We will now close this open session of the Board of Supervisors of Trinity County and enter into closed session.